Now welcome to another Let's Talk Some Star Wars, where this time we just have another question, and that question is, what is your favorite Star Wars thing ever? And it can be absolutely anything. It can be a movie, a show, a game, a book, an action figure, some other piece of memorabilia, or literally anything else. And I think I'm just going to get right to the comments here. There were 611 of them, so thank you for that. As I always say, thank you to everybody who votes or comments or watches the poll videos or these question videos. I really appreciate you taking the time to leave the responses, and most of them, pretty much all of them to be honest, were really, really good. Some were really interesting. I never would have thought that would be somebody's favorite thing. Others were more predictable, shall we say. But anyway, as promised after my last video, this is just going to be a fun video. I'm going to read a bunch of comments. Some of them I handpicked, some of them are going to be more random. I'm probably only going to respond to a few of them, the first couple and maybe a few others here and there. And otherwise, I'm just going to read it. So if you're just looking to have your day brightened by people loving Star Wars or talking positively about it for a change, perhaps, and remembering why you're maybe a fan in the first place after perhaps some turbulent years under Disney, or maybe you're just having a bad day, a bad week, or whatever, here are some good vibes, shall we say. And I'm going to kick this whole thing off with, as usual, the top rated comment left on the question. And it came to us from Pixel Katana, who said, Luke rejecting the Emperor in front of Vader slash Anakin. And then even when he is getting electrocuted, he begs his father to save him. He doesn't have any doubt Anakin is still in there when even Vader himself is unsure. And then Anakin returns and Palpatine was so sure Vader would always be his lapdog, he doesn't notice. The score was so perfect, it's the Star Wars moment. It encapsulates Anakin's story and ends with his redemption. And when I asked this question, I wasn't entirely sure what my favorite Star Wars thing of all time was. I have a lightsaber that was given to me by my wife, Luke's green lightsaber. It literally sits in a case in my living room, and that might be my favorite Star Wars thing that I own. But favorite Star Wars moment has to be the ending of Return of the Jedi. It's my favorite Star Wars movie, and everything about that ending is perfect. It is the perfect ending to a movie, the perfect ending to a trilogy, the perfect ending to a story. However you want to look at it, there is nothing about it that I would ever dare consider changing because it is perfection. I love it. And it was one of the most referenced or voted on, if you will, best things in Star Wars from people. Some of the other ones, and I'll probably read comments from them or for them, but some of the other ones were the KOTOR games, Andor actually got a ton of votes. The Heir to the Empire trilogy, those were some of the more top rated ones, if you will. But again, there were a wide array of different ones, and to start to get to some of the other ones, we now move on to this comment from Landoverse, who said, the realization as an adult that Empire Strikes Back is way more layered than I had ever realized, and Andor. And I absolutely agree with this one. Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie. It's my favorite movie. It will always be my favorite movie. But The Empire Strikes Back, from when I was a kid, a very young kid watching that movie and loving the Battle of Hoth and loving Vader versus Luke and some of the other cool parts, quote unquote, I never really got the movie on the level. Of course, I and probably a lot of other people who were kids when they saw it for the first time now get the movie on and understand just how amazing that movie was. And it was quite the gamble too, because it does take a pretty hard turn from the fun, action, lighthearted, campy adventure that is A New Hope. And I'm not saying any of that to diminish that movie. It is an incredible movie as well. But it is so different. It elevates Star Wars to a whole new level. And I've said it before, if not for The Empire Strikes Back and really adding a new layer to Star Wars, adding a more serious feel to it, I guess is the best and simplest way to put it. I really don't know that Star Wars becomes just as big as it does. I think The Empire Strikes Back kind of takes Star Wars to a whole new level, and then you have Return of the Jedi. And I know there are issues people have with Return of the Jedi, the Ewoks, at the beginning of it. People say, well, that we have this whole sequence at the beginning with Han, the rescue of Han, that is unnecessary and doesn't make sense. The plan doesn't make sense. But the ending of that movie, it caps the whole thing off nicely. The original trilogy is, I guess you could say, pretty much perfection in my opinion. Alright, and now I think I'm just going to spend the rest of the video doing some more or less random comments. I think I clipped out like 200 of the comments of the 600. So I'm just going to, again, kind of pick at random. If you don't hear yours, don't take it personally or anything, as I always say. And so, starting it off here, let's pick this one from Mega Z-Man, who said, the older LEGO Star Wars games from 1 and 2 to the complete saga to 3 The Clone Wars. I've spent an unhealthy amount of hours of my childhood playing all those games. They still remain some of my favorite games of all time, and I believe they're a great way to introduce Star Wars to little children. Then we'll pick this one from Andor Fan 1980, who surprisingly said, One Way Out. On to this one from Tommy Unreal, who said, When I was about 12, my best mate and I watched the pod racing scene from The Phantom Menace over and over again. We replayed it so many times that if you watch the movie on that VHS, the quality drop was so insane, it looked like you lost analog signal during that part of the movie. That scene holds a really special place in my heart. Then we jump to this one from Dr. Otto Edits, who said, Thrawn is my favorite Star Wars thing ever. Books, shows, games, collectibles, action figures, etc. It doesn't matter what he's a part of, I'll always be there to enjoy his presence. Now we move on to this one from William Palmer, who said, The Millennium Falcon. Seeing Star Wars as a kid in 1977, that ship inspired all kinds of ideas about space adventure, piracy and smuggling, hot rodding, camaraderie, and the freedom to explore. King of the Sharks then said, The Battle of Yavin in the OG film. It is perfectly edited, scored, and directed. Unlike other action climaxes, it never cuts away from those involved in this specific battle. There's no Gungans versus droids or Ewoks versus Imperials. It truly embodied what Star Wars was all about for me as a kid. From the epic, look at the size of that thing, to the cathartic, great shot kid that was one in a million. Moving right along, we have Govant now, who said, The new Jedi Order series. It was my first real adventure into the written world of Star Wars, and I loved every moment of it. The movies obviously hold a special place in my heart, but the whole new Jedi Order was something amazing to experience. And next up we have CC, who said, Boba Fett would be my number one. Empire Strikes Back was the movie that made me a fan for life. As a boy, I loved the arcade Destroy the Death Star game. We now have iPizza, who said, Luke throwing away his lightsaber in Return of the Jedi, of course. Maple Syrup and Jam then said, The opening crawl. Call me crazy, but nothing matches the high I feel during the excitement and anticipation of the opening crawl. Even The Last Jedi feels like a masterpiece for 3 minutes because of that glorious opening. It sets the tone for everything to come. John Williams kicks it off with the most iconic movie theme in history next to 007. Our next one then is from Timothy Doyle, who said, Seeing the 90s re-release of the OG trilogy in theaters, then going home and LARPing saber battles with my friends in the yard with pool noodles. We also then have this one from Desert Guy, who said, Luke looking at the sunset will always be special to me. So powerful. Always found it hilarious, though, that Yoda crapped all over it in Empire. And, I never really realized that until right now that, yes, Yoda does kind of crap all over that when he tells Luke that all your life have you looked away to the future, to the horizon, never your mind on where you were, what you were doing. I know I butchered the quote a little bit, but it is kind of funny that maybe the most iconic scene in Star Wars, Luke looking at that sunset, Yoda was saying, no, that's not exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to keep your mind on the here and now, not on what's down the road. Anyway, the next one then comes to us from DQ Media, who simply said, Clones. Also, we have Mako Cat, who said, The music. John Williams just made it all come together and sold me on an epic adventure of good and evil in a galaxy far, far away. Then we have this one from The World According to Hans, who simply said, Star Wars Rebels. Then from Reform Culture, we have, I will always remember the feeling I had when my mom got me a AT-AT for my action figures on my birthday. I could finally recreate the Battle of Hoth. My mom worked with my grandparents on getting me snowtroopers and the rebel turrets before I opened the massive walker. It was awesome. Keeping on the toy theme, we have this one from Darth Elias, who said, My Rancor monster toy from the 80s. I ate with him, I slept with him, went on epic adventures with him. He was the best. And you were not alone, because me and my Rancor, which kind of sounds like me and my buddy, which was also a thing once upon a time, we also hung out together and attacked the Ewok village on a daily basis, which was one of my favorite toys. I had the Ewok village, and the Rancor, I know it doesn't make sense, but the Rancor always attacked it and ate the Ewoks. That was just one of my things when I was a kid. Alright, and on to the next one, and we'll just do a couple more here, but this one is from AJ Star Hiker, who said, D20 Saga Edition RPG or role-playing game. I have many fun memories of adding our own adventures to the universe, and one was a playtest that I headcanoned that we stole the Tiderium for the Rebels. On to this one from M. Johns, who said, "This is maybe a weird choice, but I absolutely love the behind the scenes documentary of The Phantom Menace. I just love seeing all these different people contributing their individual skills to this huge project. Storyboardists, model makers, construction workers, CGI artists, stunt performers, stylists, voice actors, etc." Then we got this one from Primrose 2004, who said, "Oh, that's a good question. My answer might be different on another day, but I'd say Jedi Outcast. That was my first Star Wars video game, and Kyle Katarn became my favorite Jedi Knight in the EU. My best friend gifted me a copy for my birthday one year so that we could play multiplayer sessions together." Then on to another game one where Macro Moves only said, "Riding on swoop bikes in my mind like on Endor, then getting to do it in a video game. Can't tell you how many times I played N64 Shadows of the Empire speeder bike level." And the last comment for this video will come to us from Jerry Hazard, who said, "Lightsabers and the Force." Alright, well that is going to be all I got for you this time. It is now your turn. Take to the comments below and tell me what your favorite Star Wars thing of all time ever is. Or tell me what you think of what some of the other people had to say was their favorite Star Wars thing ever. But whatever the case may be, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.